That's a...
You ever heard of Walton Seal?
If you ever comes up here, Bob.
Good morning, welcome to the Newfoundland Outsider. So today we're on the original Alamort Islands. The original Alamort Islands is about 3 miles west of what we know today as Alamort on the mainland. But in the 1800s the people settled there along these rocky shores, and they settled there because the fishing grounds were so good. And just out there, when you had to row your boat every morning to fishing grounds, you want to be as close as possible, and this was the best spot. So back in the 1800s, here in the Alamort Islands, most people just had a rowboat, a punt, or a rodney as some people call them, which is basically a round bottom boat with a keel that you rolled or you sculled. And you would roll past Middle Passage, on out past Southeast Island, down through Frenchman's Island Passage, and on out to Southeast Rocks where the great fishing grounds were. So back in the 1800s, these islands were settled by just a few different families, and all along the shore different families had different spots set up. So Alamort, or Île-et-Mort as the French called it when they ruled these areas, and the fighting went back and forth between the French and British. A lot of the shoreline was French for a long time. But Alamort stands for Island of the Dead. And that's because there are so many shipwrecks along these islands that the locals here buried a lot of people. So a lot of immigrants were buried on these islands. Mostly the ones coming from Europe on the way to Montreal to seek a better life. There's a lot of poor people. Of course, some people were a little more wealthy than other people. Hence the marble headstone that was sent here over 200 years ago from Europe. Early in the 1800s, people started leaving the Alamort Islands and started going down to what we know today as Alamort mainland. Down there they had better drinking water, more drinking water, and lots of wood to burn. Made life a little easier, a little more comfortable. So one family in particular was living in the mainland Alamort at the time. There was not very many families around, but the George Harvey family was one living along the shore. Today I'm going to take you on a little history trip of the Alamort area and all the little places we have here. And along the way, I'm going to tell you about one famous girl, Harvey. She was just 17 years old. She fished every day with her dad. And that's where this story begins. About Harvey, a young 17-year-old fisher girl that saved the lives of 163 Irish immigrants on a shipwreck just off this coast. This is Tinker Island. It's kind of like a seagull colony. It's where seagulls come to build their nests and have their young each year. This island is just half a kilometer from the Alamort Islands, the one we were just on. So islands like this, and a lot of islands along the coastline, people would come in the springtime and get gall's egg to supplement their diet. Oftentimes people would come here on Sunday morning and make rock caverns and hide away and wait for a seagull to come by. That was a little change in your diet, and you had seagull for Sunday dinner. In 1918, Canada, US, Russia, Japan, and Mexico signed what is called a migratory bird treaty to protect the gulls and other birds. People might think there's a lot of gulls around here, and we do got a lot of gulls around here, but overall the gulls are threatened. This little island here doesn't got much vegetation on it, but it was enough for the gulls to make their nest and lay their eggs. But I remember coming up here to be thousands of nests on this island. Now I've just walked this entire island and just saw just 3 or 4. That's because last year Hurricane Fiona come through. And her waves were so big and the winds were so strong that it swept over all these islands and washed what little vegetation there was here, washed it away. We never used to get hurricanes like that. We always get tropical storms and the remnants of hurricanes. But because our waters are warming up, things are much warmer, the hurricanes got a lot of power and make it all the way to Newfoundland now. And we're seeing the effect of it. And so are the gulls. On July 12, 1928, the brig Dispatch left Derry Island with 200 Irish immigrants and 11 crew members, and they set sail for Quebec City in Montreal, Canada. so they could make a better life for themselves. On July 12, 1928, 17-year-old Ann Harvey and her father George were out fishing like they do every day. It was a Sunday morning. On the way back to shore, Ann spotted a straw bed and a keg. They headed to the beach because they knew there was a shipwreck somewhere, and they found 6 survivors on the beach already. With that information, they went and got their little punt. So George and his daughter Ann, their little brother, and their Newfoundland dog Harvey took to the waters to look for the shipwreck. So just a little ways down the shore, Ann and her father found this ship called Dispatch wrecked just off the shore. So they rowed as close as they can to the wreck. The waves were really big. They could see everybody clinging to the rocks, but they couldn't get all the way there. So what they did, they got Harvey, the Newfoundland dog, to go into the water, and he swam the rest of the way to the wreck. When he was there, the guys gave him a rope with a piece of wood attached, and he brought it back to Ann. Ann tied it to the punt, and they pulled people off the shore into the punt one by one. It was a slow process. You could only take a few at a time, bring them back to the shore, go back, keep doing it over and over. So right now I'm in a part of a cave system where it was thought to believe that Peter Easton, the famous English pirate, that was a pirate on the St. Lawrence Seaway just off Newfoundland. And it was said that all his riches were buried along the Newfoundland coast, in coves and caves, up in the cliffs, things like that. And this is supposed to be one of them. We're inside Mega Rich right now, which is inside the channel in Almort. I've been here many times searching for the treasure. I've never found it. I've been all over these rocks. Another famous pirate ship around here was an English couple, and by the name of Eric Doham and his wife Maria. They would also pirate the St. Lawrence Seaway. And it was supposedly written that they hid their treasures along these shorelines as well. But I haven't found any. So Ann Harvey and her dad continue saving people on in through Sunday. Sunday night, Monday night, and by the time Tuesday at lunchtime came around, they have saved 163 people from that ship. Many people died on the rocks, including 2 babies that were swept from their mom's arms. And 10 more people died on land after they were rescued. Well, what do you do when you got 163 survivors stopping by for lunch? You do what every Newfoundlander would do. You give them everything you got and keep them alive and safe until help arrives. So Ann Harvey and the surrounding people built lean-tos and shelters, whatever they could, with whatever they had to keep the people healthy and safe. They used up all their supplies. It was after the winter. Newfoundland winters are long, cold, and hard. Most people were out of rations anyway. But they did what they could. But after 8 days have gone by, they pretty much depleted everything in town. All the flour, sugar, molasses, everything they had left over from the winter, which wasn't very much. was now gone. Very slim pickings on bake apples or cloudberries. And they're all pretty much jammed. Yeah, I got one. So this is the plant, a fern, and at the end it's got just a little tuber on the bottom. Then at the root system, and you could eat that. It's actually really good. Hey, I got a back row. Yeah, I'll add that to my diet. A little back row. Ah, I lost them. They're just little guys. Oh, is they? Yeah. All kinds jumping around here. We got ourselves a little few blackberries for lunch. Blackberries are a delicacy here. People make loaves out of them, or muffins. So, 8 days after the disaster, Captain Grant shows up in his ship, the HMS Tyne. When Captain Grant arrives and sees the condition of all the people, it's unbelievable. He loads everybody in the ship, takes them to Halifax, Nova Scotia for treatment. But before he leaves, he stocks up Aunt Irie's house and the surrounding homes with all the supplies they need and all the supplies they used up. A little while later, the Lloyds of London struck a special medal for Anne Harvey and her family and gave her the pricely sum of £100 to go with it. In 1838, 10 years later, after the disaster of the Dispatch, Anne Harvey saved 25 more lives on another ship, not far from that one. This time she saved the lives of 25 people on the Rankin, a ship from Glasgow bound for Quebec City. Anne Harvey died at the age of 49. And in 1987, the Canadian government commissioned a ship for the Coast Guard. They would commission a beautiful ship to patrol the waters here. There was also an icebreaker, and it took care of all the waterways on the coastline for the fishermen and the people along the shore. And they called that ship the Anne Harvey.
riding down a bumpy road to the place where you were born. I can see you riding shotgun with the pine trees whizzing by. And it didn't mean much to me when you turned and said to me that home is just a frozen frame of one place and one time, your faith unbending, love on it.